Hello, welcome to the IANA Show and Mythologies, where we love to talk about all kinds of different cultures, lifestyles, and their mythologies, folktales, urban legends, and much more. If you're new, welcome, and if you're coming back, welcome too. We're your hosts, Lily and Tia. We are so excited to have you here so that we can talk about the cultures, stories, and mythologies of different countries. For this episode, we're pumped about the new and extra exciting topic we have for you today. Are you ready? Drum roll, please! We, Yanas, will be talking about the Japanese folk tales. They're normally adventure stories and focus on harmony with nature, fate, love, and finding your strengths. Because of this, most folktales normally take place in small rural towns instead of big cities. The lessons vary from balance, harmony, and nature to kindness, generosity versus greed to sacrifice and duty. Now, let's dive straight in. Our first story is Princess Kayuga. Princess Kayuga is a heartwarming and heartbreaking story about love and the cycle of nature. It starts off when a bamboo cutter finds a small girl hidden inside of a bamboo shoot and decides to raise her as his own. Princess Kayuga grows quickly and beautifully in a small village within the countryside, and the bamboo cutter thinks that she's divine and actually royalty, so he and his wife call her Princess. The princess makes lots of friends she loves and gets the nickname Takenoko, which means little bamboo. But meanwhile, the bamboo cutter finds gold, other treasures, and valuable cloth in the bamboo grove where he found Takenoko. He thinks that this is evidence that she is indeed royalty, and he wants to make her a noble. He chooses to do this by moving to the capital in a mansion with servants, and as a result, Takenoko has to leave all her friends and her old life behind. Takenoko is trained to become a noblewoman, but she misses her life in the countryside. When she gets older, she gets the fancy name Princess Kayuga. Princess Kayuga only becomes more beautiful, and so she gets 5 suitors. A suitor is someone who wants to marry you. Anyways, the suitors all claim that the princess's beauty was comparable to some mythological treasure, so Princess Kayuga said that she would marry whoever brought her the mythical treasure that they were comparing her to. As the 5 suitors try and find the treasure, Princess Kayuga says that she wants to see the cherry blossoms. So her mother and a handmaiden take her back to the countryside, where a blooming cherry tree stands. As Princess Kayuga whirls with the petals, a little girl bumps into her. The little girl's family quickly apologize and run away for fear that Princess Takenoko might try to punish them. Anyways, this shows how Princess Kayuga is a noblewoman now. She can't act like a normal person. But Princess Kayuga doesn't want that. She yearns for her life back in the countryside. Now, going back to the topic of the 5 suitors. 2 of them give her fake treasures. The 3rd one abandons his quest, and the 4th one gives her a flower. Princess Kayuga was about to marry him when he got another wife that he married. When the 5th suitor dies trying to find a treasure, Princess Kayuga becomes depressed. Very depressed. But as she sulks around, someone else is watching. The emperor takes notice of Princess Kayuga's beauty and tries to make her marry her. He kidnaps her, but then Princess Kayuga convinces him to leave. But even though she did that, the emperor was still making advances, and so the origin story of Princess Kayuga was revealed. Once she was a resident of the moon, but she broke its laws so she could be exiled to Earth and see what mortal life was like. Now she begged to the moon, hoping it could save her from the emperor. The moon agrees and promises to restore her memories and reclaim her at the next full moon. But Princess Kayuga still isn't happy. She really likes the Earth and she doesn't want to leave. She's made so many loving memories here, and she has a lot of people who she cares for. Princess Kayuga tells this to her family, and so the bamboo cutter turns their mansion into a fortress. But as we know, the moon is very powerful. It changes tides, so even though Princess Kayuga didn't want it to happen, even though no one wanted it to happen, it still would have happened, and it did. On the next full moon, Princess Kayuga was gone. But Before that, she embraces her family one more time, and as she's leaving, she looks back to Earth and tears fill her eyes. She's still grateful for the experience she's had.
That was such a sad story.
I know, and I had to suffer speaking through it.
Well, our next one's pretty sad too. A dog dies.
But at least it's not as sad as the last one. Here's our next folktale, Hanasaka Jiisan. The story is about a husband and wife and their dog and a very jealous neighbor. The story goes like this. One day, the couple's dog started digging in their backyard. They helped him because they thought he found something, and indeed, he found a box of gold coins. The jealous neighbor saw this and thought the dog must have had an ability to find treasure. So he stole the dog and gave it food, telling it to go find treasure for him. Of course, the dog didn't listen, and the jealous neighbor killed the dog in his anger. Later, when the couple asked the jealous neighbor what happened to their dog, he told them. They were very upset and grieved a lot. And so they buried the dog under the tree where he had found the treasure. One night, when the old man was sleeping, he had a dream that the dog came to him, telling him to cut down the tree where he was buried and make a mortar out of it. The old man told his wife what he had dreamed, and the wife told him that they must do what their dog asked. And so they cut down the tree and made a mortar from it, and then put rice into it. As they did, the rice turned into gold. The neighbor saw this and wanted gold for himself, so he stole the mortar and put rice into it. But when he did, the rice turned into mushy black berries that were very smelly. In his anger, the neighbor and his wife smashed the mortar and burned it. Later that night, in a dream, the old man dreamed of the dog again, telling him to take the ashes from the mortar and sprinkle it on a certain type of cherry trees. When he did, the cherry trees bloomed, and a feudal lord who was passing by saw it and loved the cherry tree, and so he gave the old man many gifts. The neighbor who saw this wanted to have gifts for himself too. And so he took ash and blew it on the cherry tree. But the ash ended up in the feudal lord's eyes, and the feudal lord was made angry, and so the neighbor was put into prison. When he was finally let out, his village would not let him in anymore. And so for his wicked deeds, he was kicked out and he needed to find a new home.
Wow, at least he got what he deserved.
Yeah. Hopefully our next stories wouldn't be as sad as these ones.
Well, our next story is a bit brutal, so I don't know if it's better or worse.
Wait, what do you mean?
I don't know. You'll just have to find out. The next story is called Kachi Yama, also known as The Farmer and the Badger or The Crackling Mountain. This is a Japanese folktale about a mischievous tanuki who is very evil, I would say. A tanuki is a Japanese mythical creature. It's a raccoon dog, and they can be mischievous or benevolent. But in this story, it's very, very mischievous. This story starts with a mischievous tanuki that a farmer caught in his field. Doesn't seem so bad, right? But then the farmer ties the tanuki to a tree to cook it later. Then he leaves to go to the town, and the tanuki sees this, and he cries and begs the man's wife to set him free, and he promises her he would help her. So the wife, being kind-hearted, freed the animal, but then the animal turned on her, and he killed her.
Oof, that's dark.
Yeah, it is, but it gets even worse. The tanuki uses the wife's flesh to make a soup, and since he's a tanuki, he has some special magical powers that lets him transform into others. So he transforms into the farmer's wife, and then when the farmer comes home from town, he presents the soup to him. The soup that has his wife's flesh and bone in it. The farmer eats it, and then afterwards the tanuki reveals what has happened. The farmer is horrified. He's heartbroken. He's devastated. He just doesn't know what to do. He tries to catch the tanuki, but the tanuki runs away and escapes. A few days later, a rabbit comes along. The rabbit was friends with a couple, and when the farmer explained what happened with the tanuki, the rabbit promised he would get revenge. So, the rabbit sets off and pretends to be the tanuki's friend, but he plays some nasty tricks on him. So, for example, he drops a beehive on his head, or somehow tricks the beehive to fall on his head, and then afterwards he pretends to treat the stings, but he uses a peppery kind of medicine that only makes the burn sting worse. After that, he performs a trick from where the story gets its name. Kachi Yama translates to Firecrackle Mountain. And so basically what happens is while the tanuki is carrying some heavy wood on his back and is already exhausted, the rabbit sets fire to the wood. The tanuki doesn't notice, and he only hears a crackling sound. And then when he asks the rabbit what the sound is, the rabbit just says, "Oh, it's Firecrackle Mountain." Then, when the tanuki finally realizes it, the fire doesn't kill him, but it really burns his back. That's where some versions of the story stop. But in another one, the tanuki is so angry after being deceived and burnt that he challenges the rabbit to a life or death contest to see who was the better creature. The contest is a race across a lake, and they each had to build a boat. The rabbit was very smart and built a canoe out of a fallen log, but the tanuki built a boat out of mud. Some versions say that the rabbit built both of them, but no matter the version, the rabbit always wins because it's a mud boat that will disintegrate versus a normal wooden canoe. Finally, the rabbit goes back to the old man's house and tells him about how he took revenge. The old man is relieved and thanks the rabbit.
Wow, now I get why you said the story was brutal.
I know, right? I have to suffer through another one.
That is really sad. Luckily, I got a better story for you guys. This story doesn't involve as much brutal killing as the last one, but there is still a little bit of death. Maybe that's just a theme with these folk tales. So the next story is called The Tongue-Cut Sparrow, or the Shita, Kiri, Suzume. It is about an old man and his greedy wife and an injured sparrow. In the story, the old man is kind and honest, but he has a very greedy and mean wife. One day, while the man was in the forest and chopping wood, he saw an injured sparrow crying for help. He was feeling sorry for it, so he decided to help it and bring it back home. He gave it some food and rice, and the wife was mad at the man for wasting their food on such a small, insignificant sparrow. But anyway, the man kept caring for the sparrow each day and giving it food. One day, though, he had to go back and chop some wood, so he let the sparrow be in the care of the wife. But the greedy wife didn't want to care for the sparrow and instead went fishing. When she got back, she found out that the sparrow got really hungry and ate some starch that was left over on the table. The wife was really mad, and so she cut the sparrow's tongue and sent it back into the forest. When the man came back from chopping wood, he found out what happened and decided to go back into the forest to search for the sparrow. He was really worried about it, and he finally found it in a bamboo grove, where a sparrow's inn was. He met other sparrows who took him to the poor sparrow in the grove, and then they decided to dance and sing and play with him. When the man finally had to go back home, they gave him two choices, one small basket and one big basket as a gift. The old man, being an old man, chose the small gift because he was old and he thought the small gift would be lighter. When he got home, he opened it and found out there was a lot of treasure inside the small basket. The wife, seeing this, wanted treasure for herself too, and so she went into the forest and asked for a basket. She chose the big basket, but she was warned not to open it until she got home. The wife, not listening, opened the basket anyway and saw that there were venomous snakes and monsters inside. It startled her so much that she fell off the mountain, presumably to her death. This one at least isn't that dark.
Yeah, but I think I like this next and last story better. Our last story will be arguably the most popular Japanese folktale. It's called Momotaro, and it focuses on bravery and courage, teamwork, the importance of family, kindness and loyalty, and also respecting others by giving gifts like food as peace offerings. Momotaro starts off with a kind old couple that doesn't have any children. As the woman was washing clothes in the river, she saw a nice and ripe peach floating down the stream. When she and her husband tried to cut it open to eat it, they found a healthy boy inside. They named the boy Momotaro, which means peach boy, or I guess Momo means peach and Taro means the oldest boy in the family. Momotaro claims that he was sent by the gods, and indeed it does seem like that, because he grows kind and strong. In fact, it almost seems like he has super strength. One day, Momotaro hears about some oni, which are ogres or demons, that are terrorizing a village and stealing their treasure. Being the hero that he is, Momotaro starts a quest to stop the oni. To do this, Momotaro has to travel to Onigashima, or Demon Island, where all the oni were. On the way, he meets a talking monkey, pheasant, and dog, who all agree to help him in exchange for some of his rations, or some of his food. The food that they all want are kibidango, or millet dumplings. Soon, the heroes penetrate the oni fort, beat up all the oni, and come home with the treasure and the chief of the oni in tow.
Wow, that's a great story. But anyways, that's it for this episode, and we hope you've enjoyed and learned a lot about
Japanese folk tales.
Remember, these are only a few examples, and if you want to hear more,
just beg in the comment section for another episode and give offerings to the IANA gods.
Anyways, we IANAs hope you've enjoyed this episode and have learned a little more about the Japanese folk tales and stories. See you again in our next episode on Scottish mythology and legends. Till next time, IANA's off! Do, do, do.